Hi, my name is Anna. How can I help you today?
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I want to know where your store is located.
We are located at 123 Main Street, Suite 200.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
That's all I have for today. Have a great day.
Thank you, Stephanie. Have a wonderful day as well. If you need anything in the future, just let me know.
All right, okay, bye. Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to show you how to build your own fully automated AI voice assistant that can answer real customer questions over the phone, live and in real time. And we are going to be using Twilio, ElevenLabs, and Microsoft Copilot Studio. We are creating the same kind of experience big companies use. That is, a customer calls a phone number, the AI picks up instantly, understands what a customer is asking for or what a customer is saying, and then looks up the correct answer and then responds in a natural human voice. You don't need to know how to code. This workflow does not involve significant coding. You don't need additional setups. It's just a matter of 3 tools working together. Twilio sort of handles the phone call. ElevenLabs handles the voice and the transcription. And then Microsoft Copilot Studio, specifically flows in Copilot Studio, handles the logic and FAQ matching. By the end of this tutorial, you'd have a working phone number you can call right now, and the AI will greet you, it will listen to your question and set your FAQ list, and then speak back the correct answer to the customer. As usual, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I built this, explain each of the steps so that you can try this as well. So let's get started. The workflow I have inside Microsoft Copilot Studio. I already have a similar tutorial using N8N. Today, I'm just using a different platform. So if you are in the Microsoft ecosystem and you would want to sort of like have a voice assistant and you don't want to use N8N, you can use our Copilot Studio as well. So this is the workflow I have in here. This workflow starts with a webhook trigger, okay? And inside this webhook trigger, I have the HTTP URL. Usually this URL is generated once you create the flow. You need to have at least one trigger and one action. Once you save it and you publish it, it would automatically generate the URL here for you. This URL is very important because that's what you're going to eventually use inside ElevenLabs. And I'm going to show you how I set this up as well in ElevenLabs and in Twilio as well. I'm just starting with Copilot Studio now. So inside here, I have a webhook trigger that really is sort of listening to calls coming through from ElevenLabs. And once it receives a call coming through from ElevenLabs, it's going to trigger the rest of the steps in the automation. So if I come into the activity tab here, you'd see that inside the manual trigger, the inputs that are being passed is the user question. So when the user calls in, you're going to ask a question: where is your store located? So the webhook trigger captures this question and then triggers the rest of the automation. Now, I do have a set of FAQs that I have stored inside Excel online. So again, if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, you're probably not using Google Sheets, you're using Excel. So I have this sheet here that basically has a number of FAQ questions that I have just like consolidated into this sheet here. And it has, as you can see, I just have 2 columns here. I have questions and then I have answers. This is where the AI voice assistant is going to be referencing as its knowledge base. So the next step I have in my automation is to get the list of rows present in the table. So I'm using this exact node. My Excel worksheet sits inside a SharePoint site. So I am navigating directly to the SharePoint site and I'm getting the list of rows. Now, this is going to come in as a list. So this output here will generate information that I probably don't need. So for instance, if I show you the raw output here, you'd see that it's passing a lot of information which I don't really need. What I'm really interested in, the questions and then the answer. So that's really what I'm interested in. So in order to just like have just that information passed on to the next step in my automation, I'm going to be using the select node. So the select node really is just like its name is saying, it's just really selecting the important part of the list that is passed on from the previous step. So I'm using the select in here, and what I'm doing is if I click here, for instance, I'm referencing the body value from the previous step. So this is the value I'm getting from the previous step, which is basically a list of items with so many things I don't need. And then in here, I'm sort of just mapping like the information I need. So I just need the question and then the answer. So the question in here, I'm sort of referencing it by using this simple expression. I just want to get the question from the items I'm getting from the previous step. So once you have like your questions and your answers extracted, this is the input I'm getting from the previous step. So if I come in here, you'd see that because I am just extracting the questions and the answers. Now you can see that it's been reduced to just the questions and the answers. And this is exactly what I want. I don't want to have all the additional information that is being passed on from the previous step. If you are probably used to building automations inside N8N, this would probably be like an edit fields node, in my opinion, because then you have the ability, like it's so dynamic to the extent that you can sort of select the exact fields you need to be passed down onto the next step. So that is good. I just also want to chip this in here that I'm going to provide you the tutorial. The tutorial is going to be in my free school community as well. If you join my free school community, you would have access to all my N8N templates, all the tutorials I've had on this channel. But I'm also launching a paid membership community, and in this paid membership community, you'd have access to like weekly FAQ sessions, weekly build sessions, hackathons. You'd have access to expert-led workshops. So that's going to be like a monthly paid subscription. And if you want to be notified when this starts, then I'm going to leave the link to the waitlist in the comment section below or in the description so that you can sign up for that. Mind you, it's not just about N8N automation or automating in Microsoft Copilot Studio. You're going to be exploring multiple tools, because at the end of the day, if you want to make this a business, sometimes N8N might not work for your use case. Sometimes you may want to use Copilot Studio because your customers already are in the Microsoft ecosystem. Sometimes you may want to use Google, and that's fine. So I'm launching this high impact paid community membership. Yeah, just sign up if you want to be part of that. Yes, so coming back into our flow here. So the next step in my flow is the compose. Okay, I'm using compose really to sort of, because everything is being passed right now as an array, I just want to pass it as a string, because that's what the next step, which is really where I'm leveraging AI. The run a prompt node requires me to use a string. So what I'm doing here in compose is basically making it a string. So this is the exact string of code I'm using. So what I'm just saying is that the output I'm getting from the select node or in the previous node, I just want to make it convert it into a string. Okay, so if you come into our activity here, and I should show you what the output of the compose looks like. So if I show you, this is how the output of our select looks like, right? Even though we sort of like selected questions and answers, it's still being put inside an array, inside a body. So what I want to do in my compose node is to just make sure that instead of it being an array, I just want it to become like a string. So it will just be passed to the run a prompt node as a single string instead of a body containing an array. So that's the exact piece of code I'm using in there, string, and I have like I wrap the output in a string. So this is the exact prompt I'm using. So in here, I've given my AI assistant some instructions. I'm saying that you are an FAQ assistant. The user would ask a question, so you should expect a text input. So I'm also passing the knowledge base I created inside SharePoint. In here, I'm saying that here's a list of FAQ items you can use to answer the question, and then I'm passing it in as additional context. And I've given some instructions. I'm like, compare user question with each FAQ question field using semantic similarity, not just exact wording. So I've just like put in the instructions, so the AI is gonna do its thing, and then based on what I have in the instruction in here, I'm putting in the additional context. So the additional context obviously is the output I'm getting from the previous step, and then the user question is obviously the question that was passed in the beginning. So this is exactly what I have in here. I'm saying that just take the output from the first node, which is the trigger node, and then pass the user question for me. So let me show you what the output will look like. So if I come back into activity, this is really what the output from the run a prompt node looks like. This is what is being passed. Okay, I'm passing additional context, which is really like the string of questions and answers from my database, and then I'm passing in the user question, where is your store located. So this is what I'm passing, and in terms of the output, you can see that it's giving me the output, and this output is what is passed down to ElevenLabs to the customer. And then once the output is generated, I'm passing a response back to my ElevenLabs voice assistant, and then the voice assistant in ElevenLabs would respond to the customer. So inside my response body here, I'm just putting in the text, which you can really get as a dynamic value. I'm just selecting the text in here, and I don't need to do any additional work at this point, because the data is now going to be passed into ElevenLabs. Now that I've walked you through how things work in Copilot Studio, I'm going to go into ElevenLabs and show you how things also work in ElevenLabs. I find that this setup is perfect for customer support lines, appointment booking agents, internal IT help desk, store hours, business FAQs. Literally, just think about it. Anything where people literally call your business and ask a question about or require an answer for, this AI would answer instead of a human being. So come with me to ElevenLabs. I've already done a tutorial on like how to set up ElevenLabs for your voice agents and all that. This part of the tutorial doesn't really change much, which is why I spent so much time explaining how things would work in Copilot Studio. What really changes is like how you connect ElevenLabs to Copilot Studio, and that's even the same because you're just using the same webhook URL. That is if you've watched my previous video. So I'm going to show you exactly how things work in ElevenLabs. So if you come into ElevenLabs, you see that there's the agents platform and then there's the creative platform. What we are interested in this tutorial is the agents platform. So when you come into the agents platform, you have the option to click on create a new agent. So if I click on new agent, this will create an entirely new agent. Now, depending on what your agent is for, in this case, our agent is a business agent. So I'm just going to click on business agent and I'm going to select for the industry. I'm just going to go with retail and e-commerce. And then in terms of the use case, I'm going to go with customer support. At this point, you can put your agent's name in there. If you have a website for your business, you can put it in there. And if you want like a main goal, you have to describe what you want the agent to accomplish. So you can put in the main goal there and you click on create agent. If you don't want this to be a voice agent and you just want it to be a chat agent, you can make this a chat agent as well. What would happen is that maybe you can have like a chat widget on your website and then you connect the chat agent to it so that the call is going to come from the website instead of like Twilio or an external third-party tool. You know that like when you're watching this for the first time, it might look a lot more complicated, but trust me, it's not. Also, if you want me to build this for you, I can. If you want me to coach you on how to build this, I can. Just let me know. I'm going to leave my email in the comment section below so that you can reach out to me if you want one-on-one coaching or you want me to build this for your business or for your organization. That's something I can also do. Okay, so let's go back here. Since I already have my agents created already, I don't want to create a new agent. So I'm going to walk you through what I have. So I have the FAQ agent here. So this FAQ agent, as you can see, I have defined what a system prompt is, and these are things you can change. It doesn't have to be the same. So let me walk you through what I have here. In order to have like your voice assistant working the way you want it to, you want to make sure that you have the role clearly defined. So in here, I've defined that it's a friendly, knowledgeable FAQ assistant for my business. And I've talked about what the job should be. I've given the behavior and I've put in like the response variable here as well. So this is something that you have to really define. And this is really based on your own processes. And I have attached a tool to this agent. So let me show you how this tool works as well. Before I go there, let me talk about the first message. Okay, so if you want your agent to respond first, like when the call comes through from the demo you saw, when the call goes through, the agent responds first, right? So if you want the agent to respond first, you can put in like a first message, and in here you can select the voice. So I'm going with a female persona, so I have the voice in here. I just selected a random voice. This is where the creative platform is very useful because then you can create your own like voice that you want to use and then use the voice here. So it's not going to be one of these like pre-built voices in ElevenLabs. It's going to be, let's say, your own voice or your own unique voice you create. And then you can select the language. And in terms of the LLM, I just kept it as the default as GPT 4.1. Now, I'm not going to touch workflows because we are handling the automation inside Copilot Studio. I'm going to come into the tools because that is what is connected to this agent. So I created a get FAQ tool because when the customer calls in, they are going to give a request. Okay, that's a question they ask. So this get FAQ really function or tool really just looks up the user's question in the FAQ database and returns the most relevant answer as plain text in the response field. And I'm using the method as post. And in terms of the URL, this is really the URL that was generated in Microsoft Copilot Studio. So remember our webhook trigger in Microsoft Copilot Studio did have an HTTP URL. So this is really the URL that I'm putting inside ElevenLabs. And this is what will link your ElevenLabs to your automation in here. Okay, so let's come back into our tool here. So now in here, that is all I'm putting in. I'm putting in the URL. I'm keeping these as default, but it really depends on what your company processes are. And in here, in terms of the headers, I'm just passing like the content type and the value, which is application JSON. Okay, so in here, I'm just defining the body parameters. So for instance, I'm defining the parameters that will be collected by the LLM and sent as the body of the request. So the get FAQ tool needs to collect some information and send it to our automation inside our Copilot Studio. So this is really what this body parameters is doing. It's just really like saying that, okay, the user is going to ask a question from the transcript you get. Make sure that you're extracting the question and passing those values values to the automation inside Copilot Studio. And in here, I have a dynamic variable assignment. And really what I'm saying that the automation is going to give you a response, pass the response down to ElevenLabs so that ElevenLabs can present this to the customer. So up until this point, I've talked about the Get FAQ tool. One thing I want to touch on is if you want this to be a phone number a customer will call into, then this is where you have to configure your phone numbers, okay? So in here, you would have to import your phone number from Twilio or from another provider. It could be Retail AI, it could be Vonage, or it could be any other provider that can provide you phone numbers. So in this case, I'm using Twilio. So because I'm using Twilio, I'm also going to show you how things are done on the Twilio side as well. Okay, so inside Twilio, you need to set up an account and do all that. What's really important inside Twilio is that you need to first buy a phone number, especially if you're outside the US and you're based in Canada, then you need to buy the phone number. So if you come in here, you can click on buy phone number, and once you buy a phone number, then you can configure the phone number. So in here, I already have a phone number which I bought, so I'm just gonna click on this one here, and what you need to put inside your configurations really is your endpoint to ElevenLabs. So in here, I'm just saying that when a call comes through this endpoint, it means that it's coming from ElevenLabs, right? So what you need to put in here is your URL, this particular URL for ElevenLabs. And since you are not getting text messages, you don't need to populate that as well. And another important feature here is the account SID. So you want to make sure that you have your account SID in here. When you eventually come into ElevenLabs here and you're importing the phone number from Twilio, the important things you need is the Twilio account SID, as well as the authentication, and then the phone number you got from Twilio. So yes, I know that this tutorial is quite long, but like I said, if you want to join my high impact membership to sort of understand how things work in the automation world, building an AI automation business, then I have the waitlist in the comment section below so that you can sign up. And if you want one-on-one coaching or you want me to build this as well, do let me know, send me a message and I'll get back to you. But yes, if you've been able to join me up until this end, then thank you. Like I mentioned, I do have other tutorials on voice AI agents using N8N. So if N8N is your style, then I'm going to link them in the comment section, or I'm going to link them in this video as well, so that you can go watch all my voice agent tutorials as well. But that is it for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.